Sean Payton, head coach of the New Orleans Saints. What's with this Saints Happy Cast? This has to be the worst Saints podcast in the world. Ralph can't say anyone's name right. Andrew doesn't know football. Everyone has a hard time listening to Dave. And is Kevin even there tonight? The audio with this podcast, my God, the audio, it's painful.
All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. This one's free to the masses, so find us wherever you get your podcast. Search Saints Happy Hour. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast. Give us a review. Give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, don't review us at all. How about that, Andrew?
Yes.
So today I want to talk about, and Andrew's going to blast me, but I don't care. Look, the NFL, they've worked out almost all the parameters of what's going to happen with COVID, the testing and all that. They're working out how they're going to deal with 30% less revenue because they're not going to have people at games, or they're going to have reduced crowds by a ton. They're not going to sell as much merchandise. So it's going to be 25 to 30% of their revenue. So the salary cap in 2021 is going to go down. Now, what they're negotiating, what they think they're going to do is, instead of having it be a 1-year thing, they're going to sort of smooth it out over like 5 to 6 years. But it still means, Andrew, the salary cap, which was going to be projected at like $205 million for 2021, is going to be $160 million. And I worry that Loomis Math has always been the foundational principle of Loomis Math is I can do whatever I want and I can bend these numbers to my will, because the salary cap is going to go up and up and up and up, and that gives me flexibilities that these other teams don't want to use, and I can do voiding years inside of Easter eggs, inside of a rushing nesting doll. And I worry that if the salary cap's $160 million, how the fuck are they going to sign Kamara and Marcus Williams? Like, I just don't see how it works, even with Mickey Loomis being cap genius and on the cutting edge and the inventor of Loomis Math. I don't see how if it goes to $160 million, that's $30 million less, Andrew.
Yeah, well, it's going to be more challenging for sure, Ralph. And it's going to require more shenanigans, more gymnastics from Loomis than normal. But it's not impossible. Now, I think part of the issue is that Breeze, at some point he retires, and if it's next year, if it's next off season, then you got to eat that poison pill. And I just think it would be unfortunate that the cap goes backwards the year he pulls the plug. Like, so from a timing perspective, that's pretty tough.
Can they shenanigan that? Could they have Drew Brees? Could they extend him out and then he retires? Could Loomis do shenanigans to make the pill not be as poisonous?
Potentially. Now, here's the thing. I think when you look at guys, first of all, like Ramczyk and Lattimore, they're both going to be on 1-year deals at very high prices. And so the first thing you do is you extend both of them. You actually I know it sounds backward, but giving them long-term deals reduces both of their cap numbers. So you get those 2 deals done, they stay with the Saints, and their cap number goes way down, and that gives you a lot of space. So I actually think there's a stronger chance of them re-signing both to long-term deals, for that reason. I think another thing you can do is you may have to give a guy more years than you initially wanted. So, let's say a guy like Kamara, if you're betting on the cap, eventually the coronavirus goes away. Eventually the cap goes back up. Eventually, the TV contracts, things go back to normal. If you want to bet on that, you can say, hey, we really only wanted to give Kamara a 3-year deal, but we're going to give him a 6-year deal, or 5-year deal. And that's way longer than we wanted to. And we're probably going to have to eject in year 3 or 4 and take a cap hit for it. But we're going to structure it that way to spread out the cap hit and make it as cheap as possible this year. So there's still ways. It's just going to require more work from Loomis. He's probably going to have to commit to longer term deals than he wants to basically expose himself further in the future. But he's always done that, and he's still going to be able to renegotiate deals. So if he wants to give someone a little bonus money up front that spreads out their deal a little bit. He can rework Cam Jordan. He can rework Michael Thomas. Like, he's just going to have to do more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I
so
wonder.
I still think, like, I just think, like, when you watch Mickey Loomis do his thing and he restructures 2 or 3 deals, it might have to be 6 or 7 this year, and I still think he can get these guys done. Now, you're right. He's probably going to have to let a couple guys walk. That was probably going to have to happen anyway. And maybe there's 1 or 2 guys that walk that wouldn't have otherwise. So, that's definitely a factor. Maybe they have to let Jameis Winston walk, even though they wanted to keep him. Maybe Marcus Williams is gone. So, like, it will affect them to some degree.
Marcus Williams or Kamara, one of those is gone. Either Kamara or Marcus Williams. One of them is walking out the door. Like,
I think that was the case.
I'm mentally prepared myself for that. I'm not sure
way.
which one. We can argue back and forth. But I'm mentally prepared. They're not keeping both of those.
What I think this will do to the Saints, though, Ralph, is they won't be able to do 1-year contracts. So like, if they wanted to bring in like a Janoris Jenkins and he has a 1-year $10 million deal. Now, I know they just extended him, but they're not going to be able to acquire a Janoris Jenkins and put that on their cap. A short-term deal for lots of money, that's not something in this cap climate, given where they are now and things going backwards, that they're going to be able to afford. So when you think about a 1-year prove-it deal, it's just going to be harder for the Saints. My gut is, like, for example, when 2 years ago they gave PJ Williams 1 year, $5 million, they're not going to be able to do that. So they're going to have to decide, do we give PJ 4 years, commit to 4 years to a guy like that, which we really don't want to do, right? Because we don't know what direction that player is going to go. Do we commit to 4 years and roll the dice that the cap is going to go up because we want to keep that player? Or do we trust a rookie or a UDFA to come in at that position and at minimum salary, and give us quality play? So I do think it's these 1-year deals that I worry about.
And also, too, look, ideal scenario, I might as well be positive in during the pandemic. Ideal scenario is, look, Saints win the Super Bowl, Drew rides off in the sunset, but then the Saints going into 2021, like you say, they extend Lattimore, they extend Ramczyk, but they can say, look, are we really a Super Bowl contender? So then you're not in this win now, let's go do these short-term deals. Let's go get a guy on a 1-year deal. But, maybe they're just like, hey, we're going to sign a couple guys and we're going to retrench. Like, they're just like, we're not going to do that much in free agency. We're going to see what we have with Taysom Hill for a year. And then when the cap gets back to normal, we'll go back at it in 2022. And the thing is, as a fan base, we'll have all the Super Bowl merch. We'll have the glow of the championship. Like, we won't, like, when the Saints aren't that active in free agency or whatever, we won't really give a shit, right? Because they'll have won. And we'll be much more accepting of the, hey, it's the Taysom Hill era. They're just going to kind of wait and see. We'll be much more understanding of that. So I think that.
Well, and look, they may trade some of their star players.
Yeah.
That may be a thing where they just decide, because look, if they can get two first round picks for Michael Thomas, I don't want to throw that out there because that's
no, but
explosive.
I think Lattimore. I think Lattimore.
Sure.
Will be interesting, because I could definitely see the Saints being like, listen, we love you, Lattimore, but we don't want to make you the highest paid corner in the history of the NFL. And, like, I know, look, we've had horribleness at corner for so long. Like, to let Lattimore walk would just be emotionally difficult because we're so bad. Brandon Brown and Jason David, we can go through the whole goddamn name of list. But, that's a tough call because Andrew, I think Lattimore is going to want that. I think he's going to, if he has a great year this year, he's going to say to the Saints, I want to be the highest paid corner in NFL history. And the Rams are over the gun because they got stupid and gave up 2 firsts for Jalen Ramsey, so they have to pay him. So it just becomes becomes a hard call where, like, Michael Thomas, when the Saints said, we're going to make you the highest paid receiver, that was an easy call to make. Lattimore, if you paid him at 3 or at 5, that's one thing. But when you're talking 80, 100 million guaranteed potentially, that's maybe a difficult thing.
Well, I mean, look, if the Saints can get 2 first-round picks for Lattimore, I would seriously consider that. I'll just throw that out there. If they could get the same deal for him, I think that's something that maybe you have to go for. But that's a different conversation for a different day. I think the bottom line is it definitely makes things more challenging for Mickey Loomis. Not impossible, though. I think the unfortunate things, again, is that if Breeze ejects and you have to deal with that financially, you don't want the cap going backwards, because I think you were already kind of assuming you were going to be a little strapped that season in terms of your financial maneuverability. So that's not ideal, and that's disappointing. But I think, look, it's a reality that the Saints, but I just think ultimately the players are going to understand it too.
Yeah.
It's like this is going to be a year where all teams aren't going to be able to pay as much. It's just more difficult right now because of where the Saints stand from a cap perspective. And look, Mickey Loomis said this. They were surprised that they kept Andres Pete and David Onyemata. They went into free agency thinking they were going to lose those guys, and they were able to keep them, which came as a surprise to them. And so I think, the way they're talking about that, it almost sounds like they're kind of resigned to, like, yeah, we're in dire straits with our cap, and like we're going to lose some players. I think the Saints are resigned to that. And so I think we have to be real with ourselves that, look, Mickey Loomis is going to work hard. He's going to make it happen. He's going to find ways to retain a lot of these good players, but they're going to lose some.
Yeah, well, look, they drafted a historic draft in 2017, and it pried open a window that we didn't think we were going to get after, they started 0-2, and it opened up this we knew it. You draft and you get a 4 to 5 year window where you got a bunch of guys on a low deal so you can bring in other guys to supplement it. You had a great quarterback, and they've had a 4-year. This is the 4th year, the last hurrah of this group. They've been 37-11. They haven't won a title, but they've done a shit ton of winning, and now those guys get to get paid. Some of them are going to walk out the door. You got to draft awesome and restock it. I mean, that's just how it works in the NFL. Unless you're New England and you play in a shit division with incompetence, where you get to lord over a division for 20 years, the rest of the league, that's not how it works. You get a 4 to 5 year window. You take a little step back. If you draft well, you do it again. Like it's just the way it goes.
Well, I think eventually you lose. Eventually, you can't re-sign everyone, and eventually, if you have that many good players drafted in 1 year, eventually those guys walk out the door. And so, I think it's going to come time for the Saints, if they want to put themselves back in the Super Bowl conversation, is they're going to have a draft class like that again.
Yeah.
And they've been drafting well, but, I don't know that McCoy being your first pick and Ruiz being your first pick, like I don't know that those draft classes are ultimately going to be game changers for the Saints. So I think they've gotten some good players the last couple of years, but I think this coming draft, so, I believe that's going to be a fork in the road for the Saints, because, you're thinking about Breeze being gone, life after Drew Brees, and they may trade some guys. They may trade some guys that get additional picks, and it'll be a year like it was when they drafted Kamara and company, where they'll have a number of picks and they'll have a number of players to add to their roster, and they're going to need to hit on those rookies. So I think that's coming, and I think we'll talk about this more as time elapses, but I think next year's draft is going to be massive when you talk about the fortunes of the franchise moving forward in life after Drew Brees.
The good thing for the Saints coming up next, the 2021 draft, is they're going to have a pick in every round, because even though they gave up a pick last year, they gave up a future pick, they're going to get a comp pick. They're probably going to get a 3rd and a 5th or 6th round comp pick. So they'll have a pick in every round, which is extremely rare for the Saints.
They have a pick in every round right now until they start trading them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We don't know what they're going to do at the deadline when they need a corner or a receiver.
That's just as things stand today, Ralph.
Yes, it is. Well, I was trying to be. You get me excited about having all the picks in 2021, Andrew. What do you want to say? So, guys, this has been the free version of the podcast. Sign up at saintshappyhour.com. Get yourself your booze bundle. You get you get swag that's awesome, and you get a Saints player legend card. It's amazing.
My wife.
We'll get that shipped out to you, and you get access to our Discord channel, where we have We have chat. Andrew has made ridiculous gifts and stuff. It's fun beyond words in our Saints Discord channel. So think about it. Sign up. Join the Saints Happy Hour fan club. We're having fun. You should join us. So for Andrew, I'm Ralph. We will see you again tomorrow.